wings shining bright in red. Warrior Terrareds fly overhead. Red Horn commands with iron grip, mutants on a power trip. Engines roar in the crimson sky. Robot ducks, they never ask why. Don't run for destruction, planes, Zoidstar's fading just again.